Basically, you've got a headstock assembly here. You have the basic bench assembly here and the tailstock assembly here. You can think of this machine almost as a lathe. It'll keep the cylinder on a fixed center line so that all the things you do to it are going to be easier to do. The headstock assembly consists of a couple of different items. We'll start at the very end here. This is what we call the hydraulic nut runner. It's meant for once the nuts are broken loose, in the case of a cylinder like this, we can use the nut runner to run the nut out or run the nut off. Turn the headstock chuck hydraulically with the torquer cylinder. We call this the torquer cylinder. Once you had to change this cylinder from one side of the machine to the other, depending on whether you were moving this chuck in this direction or in this direction. Now we use a double acting cylinder, so you do it all from the same side. I will say this, any cylinder you do in this machine will be done in a similar manner to this, in that the piston rod will always be mounted in the tailstock chuck, and the barrel will always be mounted in the headstock chuck. We need to do that because we use the headstock chuck to rotate the barrel while we're holding the gland stationary. To wind the gland out. Then when we pull this cylinder apart, we're going to be taking this barrel out of the machine, and we use the headstock chuck with our 913 universal wrench to handle taking the nut off the back end of the piston. As we come down this way, we have the headstock chuck wings, and these would be the tailstock chuck wings on this end. Then we have two steady rests. This is the barrel support, and this is the rod support. When we start to pull this cylinder apart, we're going to need to make sure that we've got both ends of it supported before we pull it apart so it doesn't fall down off of the center line. This cylinder down here is what we call the indexing cylinder, and it's the hydraulic power that allows you to pull actually to pull the barrel off of the piston rod. The indexing cylinder is it's got a 48-inch stroke. It's also a double-acting cylinder, so we can move that headstock out or in with the one cylinder. This is the pendant control. This is what you control all of the hydraulic functions with. Moving down this way, we have the built-in hydraulic, or the built-in spanner. On this type of cylinder where you need to rotate this gland out of the barrel to get the cylinder apart, we're going to be using the spanner and using the built-in torquer to break this gland loose and run it out. And the way we do that is we hook the spanner up to it, we lock the spanner to the bench to hold that gland stationary, and then we rotate the barrel to spin it out. Rotate this. We can rotate this thing in either direction using the hydraulic nut runner. We'll just get the spanner hooked up and I'll break that loose. What we'll do is after we get these attached to the gland, we're going to lock this base down completely down to this center tube, and because remember, we're going to try to keep this stationary while we rotate the rest of the cylinder. We're able, with Caterpillar's design, we can actually come in with our spanner pins in the front of this gland, or we can actually turn the spanner pin 90 degrees and come in the side. Sometimes you have holes or slots in the face of this gland. Sometimes you have both, like this one. You can actually come in the face, or you can come in the outside. Other times you might have a crown type gland where it screws over an external thread on this cylinder barrel, and you'll have holes or slots in the side of it only. Well, in that case, you'd have to use that block to turn the spanner pins this way to be able to attach to a gland that was in that configuration. This one, we're going to use it just like that. I'm going to roll this up so that the slots are somewhere near horizontal. And now we're ready to break that gland loose. Now I hit the detorque button and pop that loose. Now this is, you've got 4,000 foot-pounds of force This is generating 4,000 foot-pounds and about 7 or 8 RPMs speed-wise. That means if you've got, maybe 8 threads per inch and you got a couple inches of threads, it's going to take about 2 minutes to wind that out of the barrel. That's probably out by now. I'm going to extend this. That's loose. Whoops. Oh, I didn't want to do that, but that's all right. What you want to do here is you do not want to pull the, you don't want to pull the barrel off of the rod until you have both ends of the assembly supported properly. So at this point, I'll bring my steady rest in. Support the rod. I'll bring the barrel support in and support the barrel so that I know I've got everything on the same center line or close to the center line when I pull it apart. Put a little pressure against those nuts so I know I'm lifting that barrel up. The extend button and pull that off the rest of the way. At this point, I'm going to loosen these 4 bolts. I'm going to bring my crane back over here, lift this thing up again. Caterpillar now is recommending that anytime you take a cylinder apart this far that you hone this end, the barrel, so that instead of taking this out and sticking it on the floor, you move it directly into the cylinder hone and strap it down and then get the automatic hone going so that it can be doing that job while you're back here repairing this cylinder. Or the packing and the seals and everything over here. So then you got 2 things going, and the hone is away like that, and give yourself a little extra room. These things have to be this long in order for this wrench to catch the bigger nuts. Now you have your nut off, and your hone is over there honing this, probably all done by now. So I take a little bit of a shorter stroke. Sometimes you can get one pin in and then you can diddle around with the other one. You can raise this up or down to get the other one in. Now what we're going to do is we're going to just let this cylinder run until it stalls. When it stalls, that means the pressure is bypassing back to the tank and we're achieving the torque we've already adjusted up there. Okay, now to reassemble this, and bring this back up where we can see the alignment on the between the barrel and it looks like we're pretty high with the barrel. So that means that I need to lower this down on both of these screws. I've got a little bit wider gap here at about the 7 o'clock position than we do at the 1 o'clock position. If I want to drive this thing up that way, what I do is I just tighten this. You can see that with just one flat, when we turn this one flat, it makes quite a big difference there in how we get this line. So at that point, when you have it adjusted properly, you hit the retract. Raise it up just a hair here to help us get the thread started. Get that started where you know it's not cockeyed or anything. Going to tighten it up till I see it come up against the barrel.